What if Stannis Baratheon saved Ned Stark? Let's explore the depths of it in the video.
You will sail to Dragonstone tonight. You will place this in the hand of Stannis Baratheon. Not his steward, not his captain of the guard, and not his wife. Only Stannis himself.
As his guard departs, Ned takes a deep breath and prepares himself for what is to come next. He has done all he can to prepare himself for the coming confrontation between him and Cersei Lannister, but he knows he is badly outnumbered and has few friends in the capital. With Robert dead, his hope for protection comes only with the Baratheon of Dragonstone. That doesn't mean he doesn't try and secure the throne while he can. He knows it may take days before Stannis arrives, and he cannot remain idle. Ned recruits Littlefinger and tries to convince the Gold Cloaks to pledge their swords to his cause. It was a clever move, but one doomed from the start, as Lord Baelish has them turn against him when they get the chance. In the ensuing slaughter, Ned's entire household is executed, and he is taken captive. But while he languishes in prison, Ned's runner reaches Stannis and provides him with the information he needs. At first, Stannis is in disbelief that someone learned the truth, but as news filters in about the happenings of the capital, he becomes certain of what happened and prepares to act. He calls his banners and sits down with Melisandre and his advisors to discuss his plan.
It appears we have allies in the capital. Ned Stark has just declared for me, but the fool attempted to seize control before we arrived. Because of that, Ned has been arrested by the Lannisters. It would reflect poorly on me if I were to allow one of my first and strongest allies to fall so quickly.
I agree, Your Grace. But even when your banners arrive, we may only be able to muster about 3,000 men on short notice. Even with the royal fleet, it would be risky to attack.
The knight speaks truly. If you march to war on the capital, it is your forces who will water the stones of Aegon City. No, the time to act is not yet upon us.
Begging your pardon, Your Grace. Speaking as a smuggler, we say that favorable winds only blow once. When that happens, you must be ready to raise your sail and ride it. I say it's best to act now. You wait now, and others might catch wind of the currents and sail past you.
There is only one true king, said Davos, and that is King Stannis.
I agree on that, but most people don't know him, and they might not be keen on raising their banners to a lord from far away Dragonstone. The Onion Knight has the right of it. We do not have many bannermen to follow, and waiting here will not bring more. We must win them over through action. This will require victory, which is far from certain in a siege. Not quite. I think I might have an idea.
That night, the royal fleet sails from Dragonstone and approaches Blackwater Bay. Lookouts spot this immediately, and the remains of King's Landing's fleet are placed on high alert, ready for an attack. Some ships sail forward, seeming to approach the city docks. These are filled with men-at-arms and knights, and when the defense fleet catches a glimpse of this, they send ships to chase them off. It is a cat-and-mouse game that lasts for hours and puts the entire fleet on high alert. As that happens, a smaller ship with black sails makes its way into one of the quiet inlets of the Red Keep. There, Davos and some 50 men-at-arms and knights ascend the Red Keep. Among them is Stannis, who nods firmly towards his men. Their first stop is the Black Cells, where they quickly overpower the guards. Sir Clayton leads the way, happily cutting through jailers and freeing prisoners. Among them is Ned Stark, who bows before him.
Lord Stannis, I didn't think to see you here. Thank you.
I could not abandon you after you supported my claim. Now, tell me what happened.
Cersei usurped the throne. She had her men slaughter my household, convinced the Gold Cloaks to join her as well. They put Joffrey on the throne. I read Robert's proclamation before the throne room, and they still did this.
Wait, you were able to read Robert's decree?
Aye. Not that it did me any good.
Of course not. When have oaths ever stopped the Lannisters before? But the rest of the court might not be so quick to commit treason. Quickly, we must secure the royal quarters.
He reaches for his belt and offers Ned a spare sword. The former hand stares at it, thinking back several weeks ago when Renly offered him the same thing. Back then, Ned had refused, horrified at what it would have meant for the realm, but now he realizes that this is the only way. Taking the sword, he unsheathes it and nods. With Ned by his side, the men hurry up to the upper level. Ned, Stannis, and Davos make their way up to the royal quarters of Cersei. Sir Meryn and Boros stand guard there, but though they appear intimidating in their white cloaks, neither one can take a dozen knights by themselves. They are overwhelmed by strikes raining down on them from multiple directions, their armor slowly being worn down and chipped away until they are hacked apart, their armor more red than white. Inside, Cersei is awake and shocked. Her eyes widen and she tries to make a run for it, but she is pressed by 3 men who grab her and hold her down. They do not bother with gentle treatment, knowing what she did, and roughly lead her downstairs to the throne room, where they wait for the rest of their party. However, as the minutes tick by, they realize they are not coming until, at last, the doors fly open and a man steps out. However, it is not the knight they're expecting. Instead, it is Sir Balon Swan and the rest of the Kingsguard, accompanied by a large force of Gold Cloaks. Behind them, Joffrey pushes himself forward, along with the Hound, whose sword remains bloodied.
Lord Stannis, this has gone far enough. You are trying to stage a coup, but you put the entire realm at risk. If you have any desire to walk away from this, I suggest you lay down your weapons now.
Sir Balon, it is you who must question whether you are staging a coup. Look around you at which king you protect. Does he look like a Baratheon to you?
His appearance does not concern me. He has been proclaimed king.
By who, sir? Not his father, who named Lord Eddard Protector of the Realm? Or do you deny that as well?
I have heard such rumors, but I was not there to witness it myself. You were there, Sir Aerys. Do you deny what was read?
Joffrey squirms, demanding silence.
Hold your tongue, and you will forever stain that white cloak of yours by serving a false king. Now answer the question and answer it honestly. Did Robert name Ned Stark Protector of the Realm?
He did, Your Grace.
Sir Balon looks at him in shock, others exchanging nervous glances. Some were shocked and others were scared about their part in the coup. Then, at last, both knights share a glance and join Stannis. A few of the Kingsguard curse them as traitors, and Joffrey calls for their heads. Melisandre steps forward.
Strike me down and face the eternal flames of R'hllor, fools.
Her eyes blaze, and the room seems to grow hotter. The Gold Cloaks nervously step back, and even the Lannister men-at-arms seem uncertain. Meanwhile, Sir Richard holds a sword up to the Queen's throat. Though Joffrey might not care for her, the Lannisters know that Tywin does, and will not forgive them if they allow her to die.
Strike at us if you dare, but I have 200 men with me. I can have 100 here within the hour, and 300 by sunrise. Are you prepared to fight through them all and risk Lord Tywin's wrath for failure?
The answer is quick, and many Gold Cloaks throw down their spears, having recalled what happened the last time Tywin invaded King's Landing. At least here they have a king to protect them. Ned nods in approval as the men are disarmed, while Sir Richard and Sir Clayton escort Joffrey and Cersei to their chambers under close watch. But Stannis cannot rest easy, as there is still chaos around him. Stannis sees war brewing all around them, as Tywin rampages across the Riverlands, and Renly is doing who knows what in the south. With Robb riding south to meet Tywin, Ned suggests gathering the rest of their levies and hurrying to support them. On the other hand, Melisandre urges another path. She says that their path to glory is down south, gathering allies there. At first, even Stannis is incredulous, as he knows the Dornish will not rise for him, and that Renly is brewing something. And yet he must also admit that Melisandre was a great help in frightening the Gold Cloaks into submission, so he decides to march south, reasoning that Robb has a large enough force that he can hold Tywin back for a time. Ned protests this, citing the destruction Tywin is causing in the Riverlands and worrying for his own son, but he is overruled. Reluctantly, he joins the march. As they move, ravens are sent ahead, letting the rest of the Seven Kingdoms know that Stannis is declared king, and not only that, he has also captured King's Landing and holds Cersei and Joffrey. Word soon reaches Highgarden, just as Renly reaches them with Loras, offering to marry Margaery Tyrell for her support of the Reach. Together with the Stormlands, it will allow them to command the largest army in Westeros. And yet, there are worries among the Reachmen. While Mace Tyrell is fully on board with an alliance, his bannermen all express their concerns. Stannis holds the capital, he holds the royal family, and has the North's backing. If he defeats Tywin, he can turn the full might of the North, Riverlands, and possibly even the Westerlands upon the Reach. Mace might be willing to take that gamble, but the other Reachmen are worried about an invasion, since Stannis is a proven battle commander. This leads to a deadlock among Mace's advisors, and while they debate and argue, more news comes. Robb was victorious against Tywin. Though the Lord of Casterly Rock remains at large with his army, Sir Jaime and his host were shattered outside Riverrun, leading to his capture and leaving Tywin trapped. A success like this raises further doubts within the Reach, as they see how Robb has just humbled one of the most powerful lords while Stannis marches south. The Florents see this and urge Mace to pledge his service to Stannis and perhaps bargain for the marriage pact between Shireen and one of his sons. Some of the Stormlords rally to Stannis' side, and at last, Mace makes his decision. Renly cannot even hold on to his position in the Stormlands, and Stannis is proven to be the most dangerous. So he rejects the marriage proposal between Renly and Margaery and orders him detained. However, Sir Loras frees Renly in the dead of night. The two gallop off in the dead of night and rally what few forces they still have. When Stannis reaches Ashford, Renly is waiting for him. Neither side has a major advantage in numbers, with Renly having 12,000 men and Stannis 9,000. The younger Baratheon tries to use his small advantage in numbers to overwhelm Stannis. From atop a hill, he orders his army down, with Loras commanding the center and aiming to envelop them as they march. The clash is brutal as men battle all around them. The first row of Stannis' men go down in a sea of pikes and lances, but the second manages to form up, a defensive position, holding the army back as Ned takes command of the vanguard and steadies them. With the advance faltering, Renly orders his flanks to strike. He has his cavalry spread out and try to envelop them like the wings of a bird, and for a moment it seems like it will work, but Stannis watches this from the horizon and orders his archers to lay down covering fire as his ranks shift to meet them. Sir Gardry and Richard Horp both turn, slowly giving ground until their forces face Renly at an angle, and then they brace for the cavalry charge. Once again, the fighting is fierce as neither side surrenders, but slowly Richard Horp's men are pushed back, opening a gap in their lines. Stannis notices this before Renly and orders all his reserves, some 1,000 men, to charge through that opening. As they rush through, Renly realizes his mistake and tries to pull men back. However, it is too late as they smash into the rear of his right flank and free up Sir Richard. This causes a chain reaction as he in turn attacks the center and they strike at the enemy's left. Soon, the whole army falls into chaos, and Renly retreats, accompanied by Loras and a few survivors. Stannis sends Sir Clayton to hunt them down, but their army escapes into the Stormlands when they find a ship and escape across the narrow sea. With this victory, Stannis marches to the Reach, where Mace eagerly pledges his swords to Stannis' cause. However, he is disappointed to hear that Stannis rejects his offer of a marriage alliance. He knows that Mace does not truly believe in his cause and only joined because he saw an opportunity to advance. While Stannis does reward him, it is far less than what he had hoped. A pair of Mace's allies are granted seats on the small council, and nothing more. His influence remains limited, and soon Stannis turns his attention to the Riverlands, where Tywin remains. After his victory at the Whisper Woods, Robb turns his attention westward and attacks the Westerlands, hoping to add more pressure on Tywin, who remains hidden in Harrenhal. The rest of the Northmen under the command of Roose Bolton keep their distance, shadowing the Lannister army and waiting for Stannis to strike. This war left Tywin essentially no immediate family outside of Tyrion, whom he keeps close as an insurance policy should he become heir. He barters relentlessly with the North for Sir Jaime, but Robb knows of his value and refuses each time. Stannis begins advancing from the south with an army numbering in the tens of thousands. Seeing this, Tywin knows he cannot risk a siege, not when it means whittling down what little strength he has left. So instead, he tries to force his way back into the Westerlands and tries to rebuild his army. But as soon as he departs, he's soon followed by Stannis and Roose Bolton's army. Both shadow his force and try to outflank him, aiming to surround and destroy him. To prevent this, Tywin orders Sir Gregor to raid the lands around them and hit their flanks. Tyrion is also given this thankless task alongside his mountain clans. Despite being his only remaining child, Tywin remains as cold and unforgiving as ever. He places high standards on Tyrion that he never seems to satisfy, while offering harsh criticism and scathing remarks. To make matters worse, Tywin remains unwilling to name him his heir, holding out hope of saving Jaime. He treats Tyrion as if he were heir, but never actually gives that privilege. All of this isn't new to the dwarf, but the true sticking point is that Tywin still hasn't been able to free Jaime, no matter what he does. Tyrion is forbidden from leaving or returning to Castle Rock without Tywin's permission, keeping him in the field. All of this convinces the youngest Lannister that Tywin is simply waiting for him to die, and that his family's only hope of survival is by betraying his father. After one raid, Tyrion leaves a secret message conspicuously placed atop a dead clansman. In that letter, he offers to lead a royalist force straight to Tywin if they agree to his terms. Jaime will not be executed and allowed to take the Black, and Tyrion is recognized as Lord of Castle Rock. Stannis is skeptical of these terms, as he knows that Tyrion is cunning and wonders whether it is a trick. At the same time, he also realizes that he cannot keep this war going. So after another raid, a letter is left behind for Tyrion to find, citing that they agree to these terms. During their next encounter, the fighting ends much sooner than expected. Tyrion's mountain clansmen break off and leave the battlefield, but stay in sight of the pursuing Bolton forces. They continue to follow until they reach a secluded gully where the Lannisters are making camp. They are just starting to fortify it when the Boltons strike. Their raiding forces come rushing down at the half-formed defenses, while other Westermen are out raiding or foraging, which leaves the defenses undermanned and unable to respond. Tywin hurries out and tries to organize the defenses. He manages to halt the attack as he assembles a force of men-at-arms to beat back Roos's force. This manages to force them back and slowly organizes a counterattack. But just as it seems like Roose Bolton will be forced to retreat, another horn blows from the distance, coming from the south. This time, it is Stannis and his cavalry, accompanied by some River Lord guides who rally around the new king and strike against the other side. This time, Tywin cannot hold them back, as his forces are spread thin, and the first knights break into their camp, slaughtering anyone who gets in their way. Seeing this, Roose Bolton manages to rally his men and strike back. Pinned on both sides, Tywin barely manages to escape while most of his army is slaughtered or forced to retreat. But he only manages to escape a short distance before Tyrion's mountain clansmen ride after him. At first, he thinks they are there to rescue him, but that is until Shagga sweeps his axes and unceremoniously cuts the lord down. With Tywin dead, the Lannister war effort collapses and the army dissipates. Most of them simply return home. Others bend the knee and offer to submit to him. Chief among the latter is Tyrion, who receives a royal backing and support to rule Castle Rock. This effectively brings the war to an end, and Stannis becomes the new ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. But while he pardons one Lannister, he executes others. Cersei and Joffrey are both publicly burned alive in a ceremony in King's Landing. But while some are horrified, others cheer it on as they have long despised the Queen. Other members of the small council are removed as well. Varys, Pycelle, and Littlefinger are all executed and replaced with Tyrell allies, Stannis' bannermen and river lords. Ned is allowed to remain Hand of the King and rebuild the realm, but Stannis is not satisfied with simply keeping things as is. The floodgates have been opened to him, and now he sees no way of closing it. One of the biggest reasons he sees for this rebellion is the weakening authority of the crown. It had collapsed under Aerys and the last few Targaryen kings, and Robert has not done nearly enough to strengthen it. So Stannis instead goes about restoring centralized authority. To this end, Melisandre suggests offering the Lannister children as sacrifices to the Lord of Light. She promises this will grant him the power to restore order, something that Aegon V tried to do at Summerhall, but Stannis refuses. Tommen and Myrcella are innocent of their brother's crime, and he already saw how controversial burning Joffrey was. Instead, Stannis goes about restoring royal authority through more conventional means. He starts by creating a standard military. After the war, Stannis does not fully demobilize the army. He instead searches for talented knights who have distinguished themselves. Men like Richard Horpe, Roland Storm, Godry Faring, Balon Swan, and Blackwalder Frey. All of them are taken under Stannis' service and are tasked with recruiting men from the army. Veterans who show promise or are won over by the idea of steady pay and work flock to their banner. Some men are even sent from the Stormlands, Westerlands, and Reach as punishment for the rebellion. This is meant to depopulate them and reduce their capabilities. These men are raised up and given Stannis' colors, the Fiery Heart, and are told that their job is to train and maintain the peace. They are garrisoned in Harrenhal, which is taken over as a royal fief along with other lordless castles. This allows the wealth of a kingdom to flow in and restore it as best they can. With such important castles now under royal control, Stannis can now project power across the Seven Kingdoms and move troops quickly. As that happens, he also begins working on stripping down some of the great houses' power. But power is something Renly does not have much of, as he flees to Essos in exile, accompanied by a few hundred followers, including Loras Tyrell and some lesser lordlings and Stormland nobles. The sun hangs low above Qarth, casting golden light through the carved lattice walls of the garden. Exotic birds chirp from golden cages, and perfumed fountains trickle gently over marble. Daenerys Targaryen waits beneath a canopy of silken banners, Rhaegal curled lazily beside her, his breath a warm mist in the air. Her silver hair glows in the sunlight, her violet eyes unreadable. Then he arrives. Renly Baratheon walks with confidence into her manse. having been invited here by the merchant princes after he presented them rich gifts, as he has taken as much wealth as he could carry from Westeros. His cloak of deep green velvet flows behind him, the golden stag of House Baratheon emblazoned proudly on his chest. At his side marches Sir Loras Tyrell, gleaming in polished armor, his expression guarded but loyal. Behind them trails a small procession, exiled knights, bannermen stripped of lands, and servants clinging to the remnants of a once grand court.
Your Grace, the last time I knelt, I did it to claim a throne. Today, I kneel to offer it.
You would offer me a throne? The usurper's own blood?
As it happens, I never particularly cared for my brother Robert, much less Stannis. I see no reason in serving them when I could offer my services to you, Your Grace. Our houses share some bad blood, but we have been allies before. Aegon relied on Orys to help him secure the throne. Let me be the same. I offer an alliance. You have dragons, I have stormlords. I know Westeros. You need allies. I need fire. Together we can take the realm before it eats itself alive.
You were a rival king, one of many. Why should she trust a man who once crowned her himself?
Because I'm still breathing, Sir Knight. And because, unlike others, I didn't burn towns or butcher children to get there. I know my claim is weaker. Bastards have a better chance at the throne than a younger brother. But I bring something real. Soldiers, ships, gold, and names that still hold power in the Reach and Stormlands.
You would marry me?
Yes. Not for love, but for survival. You rule, I support. I swear loyalty and will help you take Westeros. In return, I ask to stand beside the Dragon Queen as her consort.
And if I choose to rule alone?
Then you will conquer Westeros alone. The Lords of Westeros understand marriage more than dragons. They'll see it as a strength, as unity. That's the only kind of power they respect.
A long silence follows. Finally, Daenerys rises. Rhaegal's head lifts, nostrils flaring. The queen steps toward Renly and offers her hand, not as a bride, but as a monarch sealing terms of war. She makes him swear loyalty, that he will never claim the throne for himself. She will rule, and he will support.
As you command, Your Grace.
He soon proves his worth as the two travel across the city, speaking to the wealthiest citizens. Karth's merchant kings are not easily impressed, but Renly speaks their language: gold, trade, and glory. In the perfumed halls of Xaro Xhoan and Daxos, he jokes and flatters, weaving stories of Westeros and planting seeds of profit and conquest. While Daenerys had struggled to earn their trust, Renly earned their attention in a matter of days. He promises wealth, trade routes, and titles. He introduces them to Loras Tyrell, young, handsome, the future Lord of Highgarden, should he return to power. Some Reachmen in exile pledged themselves again. The merchant kings and rulers soon made pledges. They are not large, a few ships are there, a handful of sellswords here, but it builds up. Soon, Daenerys has an army in the hundreds and a small fleet to transport them. That number can only grow as time passes, as sellswords, levies, and even Unsullied, purchased from Slaver's Bay, are sent to bolster her numbers. Karth is a wealthy city, and they soon gather a significant force of conscripts who are sent to fight for Daenerys. But they are not alone, and Renly soon begins traveling west to the Free Cities to gather more troops. And word spreads that Renly and the Dragon Queen are not just talk. For the first time, Daenerys sees her claim not as a dream, but as something concrete, something Westerosi ears will hear. She does not trust Renly, but she cannot ignore the results, and with their growing army, sails to the Free Cities. Over the course of the journey, he instructs the young queen in the ways of politics, teaching her how to charm lords and negotiate. But most importantly, he reminds her of the importance of modesty.
The Targaryens still see themselves as kings and queens, even when they have no lands to rule or armies to command.
The throne is mine by right.
You sound like my brother. He goes off about all the laws that justify their claims as if it means something. I have served as Master of Laws for years, and let me tell you this. People care about them far less than you think. You walk in with your righteousness and commands, and no one will follow you. No one likes being commanded.
So you would have me beg and plead for troops?
There is a difference between pleading and asking. You'll catch more flies with wine than wildfire, my dear.
When he meets with the archons, princes, and merchants, he shows Daenerys just that. Talks of war and armies are postponed, and instead pleasantries and courtesies are exchanged. They laugh over feasts, cheer at events, and only after Renly has befriended them do they ask for support. something which these leaders provide. During these meetings, one thing Renly mentions is the Crown's immense debt to different groups in Essos, like the Iron Bank and various trading guilds. Then he hints that he might allow them to claim 1/4 of all the loot he captures during their conquest. At the same time, he keeps up to date on the events in Westeros by talking to these people. There he learns of Stannis' plan to centralize the realm. He has slowly started expanding the small council's influence, sending the Master of Coin's tax collectors directly to regions and to the great houses, creating new naval bases to allow the royal fleet to protect different regions, and restricting some of the nobility's privileges and exemptions. To many this seems like oppression, and Stannis slowly turning into a dictator. Renly and Daenerys promise a return to the old ways of traditional monarchs. Cold marble pillars rise like towers in the Iron Bank's inner chamber. Light from glass lanterns dances over polished black stone. 12 bankers sit in silence behind a long table. Scrolls, ledgers, and golden scales rest before them. Daenerys Targaryen stands at the center of the room, flanked by Ser Jorah and Ser Barristan. Behind her, Renly Baratheon waits with practiced ease, a green cloak draped over his arm.
I am Daenerys Stormborn, Queen of the Andals and the Rhonar and the First Men, Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, and Mother of Dragons. I come not to borrow, but to restore. The Iron Throne owes you more gold than it can ever repay, and yet those who sit it never pay.
My lords, my lady speaks the truth. The crown's debts have grown monstrous. Robert borrowed for feasts, and Stannis for reform. Stannis has centralized the realm under a single vision. His. He has stripped noble houses of traditional privileges, bypassed local treasuries, and taxed temples, merchants, and lords alike. Now all seek to punish him.
He claims to bring order, but his new order is rigid and cruel. The lords rebel, the small folks starve, and the faith is enraged.
Braavos has always profited from stability. But you don't get stability from a king who forces change down everyone's throat. Support us, and we will reopen Westeros to Essos. We will pay what is owed, and more. 1/4 of all spoils, from dawn to the neck, will go to the bank and its trading partners. We will bring back the traditions Westeros once thrived on, where the king reigns, but does not rule alone.
For a moment, the room is still. Then the head banker speaks in a voice as dry as old parchment.
Your proposal is not unwise. Many question how the Iron Throne will repay its debts. We have the backing of the men of Karth, the Archons of Tyrosh, and the trade princes from Volantis. All have provided men, ships, and most of all, gold.
Word travels fast, faster than ships. In Dorne, the Martells read between the lines. In the Reach, the Tyrells stir and have never forgotten how Stannis rewarded them. Minor lordlings across the Reach, Stormlands, Riverlands, and Westerlands all whisper to one another about this new claimant. Rebellion kindles like dry grass beneath a torch. As she lands in the Dornish marches, lordlings rush to greet her. Mace and Prince Doran quickly pledge their swords to her cause, providing shelter and supplies for her army, which consists of sellswords, unsullied, and private armies of the East. These are stiffened by the rebellious lordlings who offer their levies and cause further chaos in the region. While they march across the Reach, dozens of minor rebellions break out across the Seven Kingdoms, some of the small coalitions and others of individual houses. There are robber knights, sparrows arming small folk, and broken men. All of them either serve Daenerys or use their chaos to settle personal grudges, and for the moment, the realm is paralyzed. The only thing many can do is look upon it in horror as dragons fly overhead. Her ships land in the south, cheered by common folk who outlawed sparrows. Renly rides with her, not as her king, but as her consort and commander. Together, they burn a swath through disloyal lands until they reach the teeth of the breast. Soon, they march from Old Town to the Riverlands, the dragons leaving bloody swaths of dead loyalists in their wake. Those who do remain loyal to Stannis are either terrified or caught up in these rebellions to act. But Stannis knows how to act. His reforms allow him to have a personal army ready to act at a moment's notice. Those in Harrenhal quickly strengthen the castle while riding out to put down smaller rebellions. Meanwhile, the army in the Crownlands is summoned under the command of Sir Godry Ferring to the city. It numbers only 5,000, with an equal number of levies and sellswords. What began as a wave of rebellion crashes upon the rocky shore of Stannis Baratheon's new realm. His armies do not outnumber Daenerys' scattered hosts or rebellious banners that rise across the Seven Kingdoms, but they do not need to. Stannis does not rely on bannermen or calls for fealty. He commands the first truly centralized royal army Westeros has seen in centuries. Drilled and loyal, stationed across key strongholds, able to move swiftly thanks to the King's Road and the royal fleet. While Renly and Daenerys burn their way through the minor lords, Stannis secures the essentials. He commands the seas. His navy locks down port after port, cutting Daenerys' forces off from resupply, preventing her allies from the Free Cities and Qarth from sending supplies and reinforcements. Where towns rise against him, he crushes them, not with indiscriminate fire, but with swift justice. His law code, cruel in its clarity, brings predictability. Robber knights are nailed to gates, sparrow agitators vanish overnight. A whisper spreads. King Stannis brings peace, even if it limps behind discipline. All thanks to the insights of his master of whispers, Melisandre. And most critically, not all the realm rises. Tyrion Lannister remains in the crown's favor, ruling Castle Rock in his name. The Starks send riders south. House Hightower, ever cautious, watches and waits. And many merchants, seeing their profits swell under stable trade routes, also offer their aid. Several trade towns refused to aid them, as Stannis had granted places like Duskendale, Maidenpool, and Weepingtown independent charters that allow them to grow while not under the oppressive thumb of their lord paramounts. This denies them crucial ports through which to move troops. More importantly, the small folk themselves do not seem united. While some religious peasants despise Stannis and his foreign god for fear of increasing control that the crown has, others enjoy the greater protections they've enjoyed with these reforms. They no longer must fear their liege lords abusing their power with impunity, and many of the harshest measures are slowly whittled down. This leaves the realm facing a series of rebellions, counter-rebellions, and factional wars. Renly's prediction of a mass uprising falters. So, while Stannis loses many minor battles due to the small number of soldiers, his naval supremacy and control of key areas allow him to act quickly and strike at the most critical areas. The choke points, the ports, the passes. He does not need to stop every revolt, only control where it matters. Her dragons remain an issue. Wherever they go, even Stannis' most hardened troops cannot bring one down, and they still manage to do serious damage wherever they are. Everywhere Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion go, fire rains and men scream. Even Stannis' most hardened troops scatter at the sight of wings. Ballista and scorpions have limited use, and though the dragons have grown sluggish from wounds and wear, they are still deadly from the skies. But Stannis makes his move. Soon, his remaining allies reinforce the royal army. Houses Lannister, Stark, and Tully march to the Riverlands to reinforce him. Their target is not the Queen or the dragons, it is her army. Stannis understands war. While dragons may rule the skies, wars are won by boots, bread, and blood. Every army Daenerys and Renly brought across the sea is trapped on this continent with no supply chain, no winter stores, no escape. His navy sees to that. And so the hammer falls. From Seaguard to the Gold Road, the Loyalist hosts engage Daenerys' force in brutal attritional battles. These are brutal affairs, often with both sides funneling their troops into a meat grinder. Stannis often loses as many troops as the Dragon Queen, but he can draw upon more levies. Cities are spared. Stannis needs them. Fields are scorched, forts razed, livestock slaughtered. It is not glorious, it is not noble, it is necessary. Seeing this, Daenerys and Renly meet in a ruined holdfast, watching their banners burn. Daenerys is tired. The fire that once lit her eyes now flickers, dimmed by months of endless retreat and hard truths.
We had dragons. We had a fire. And yet we are the ones dying.
Renly, ever with a smile to hide the bitterness, places a hand on her shoulder.
Fire is not enough. We need a storm. One that will rock Stannis' rule to its very foundations.
So you suggest one final battle?
All or nothing. Crush Stannis' army. Shatter the kingdoms in one stroke. Your dragons, my cavalry, whatever is left. If we win, the realm is ours.
And if we lose?
Then it was never meant to be.
They march to war one last time. 3 dragons scream above them. Renly rides in golden armor, laughing like a man with nothing to lose. Daenerys rides Drogon, fire in her blood once more. They soon meet the royal army in Old Oaks. The Unsullied hold the center and advance, being the only force professional enough to meet the trained soldiers of the royal army. Beside them, masses of sellswords rush to clash with savage Northmen. Their armies clash without flash or flurry, only intending to slaughter one another. Meanwhile, Renly orders a cavalry charge against the combined Riverlords and Westermen, The chivalrous Reachmen and fierce Stormlanders battle hard, driving them back as infantry advances behind them. Elsewhere, dragons sweep down, burning swaths of battlefield. Stannis' front line falters. For a moment, the tide turns as the line buckles. The right flank pushes hard, and some sellswords break through gaps in Northmen's lines, threatening Stannis' headquarters. During that battle, Stannis himself joins the fight and manages to kill several men, but a stray quarrel strikes him on the shoulder and sends him tumbling to the ground. His men quickly form up around him, driving back the sellswords and carrying him away from the battle. This would normally be a death sentence for an army, but his royal army has one difference. A system is in place for this eventuality. Sir Richard Horpe and Roland Storm both take over, and no one questions them, as they had both been personally assigned to this job by Stannis. They give no ground and organize a counteroffensive. Soon enough, they drive the Unsullied back and swing to the left to catch Renly unaware. Renly is surrounded. His guards die beside him. Daenerys tries to circle and save him. Drogon unleashes another burst of fire, scattering a few horsemen, but with the center secure, Scorpions and Ballista open fire, and one catches Drogon in the flank, sending him tumbling off course as he disappears into the hills. Soon, Renly falls, and unlike Stannis, their army breaks without its leader. Hours later, Stannis' men find Daenerys and surround her as she nurses Drogon. The two other dragons circle overhead, but Stannis does not seem intimidated. He limps over and regards the young queen.
Is this an execution?
I suppose that will depend on how this conversation goes.
Would you at least tell me how the battle went?
Your army is scattered to the winds. Sir Jorah Mormont is rallying survivors in Bitterbridge. But it will take days to accomplish. I should ride out and crush him, but some of my advisors have cautioned me to try something else. Mercy.
And what do you hope to accomplish there?
Stability. If I kill you, the rest of your army will run wild in smaller bands. It would take months to hunt them down. But with a figure to rally behind, one with dragons, I can end this war in a single move. So here are my terms. Lead your troops away from here and swear to never return. In exchange, I will let you live your days in peace.
Very well. I accept.
I sense that you wish to change things too, girl. But the Seven Kingdoms are mine. If you want my advice, take your army somewhere else that requires their aid.
And so Daenerys rides off, gathering what remains of her army and sailing back east, looking for where she might be needed. Meanwhile, Stannis continues his reforms, and with much of his opposition defeated, he can pursue them with far more energy. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.